Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for sharing your time with me again today. I'm Sarah, your host of What's on Your Plate podcast, and I'm here today with Kelly and Jay of Silver Stray. This conversation today not only includes the story of the nonprofit Silver Stray, but also the heartwarming story of its inception and how it has evolved to put emphasis and focus on those that truly need it most. The passion in this conversation will leave you inspired and hopefully looking at the importance of companion animals and the love and bonds created between them and their guardians from a new place of knowing. Listen in and be sure to check the show notes. Follow the link to join the mailing list so you never miss episodes like this, never miss blog posts or any other offers that are going to be forthcoming. Let's go. Hey guys, so I'm here with Kelly and Jay of Silver Stray Social, which from that, Silver Lining Gary was born. And I'm really excited to talk to you both today about just the important work of the nonprofit as a whole, but specifically how you're serving the community of Gary and the underprivileged families and pet families. I'm just fascinated by this work, and I am just, the more I learn about it, the more I read about the different things that you've done and are doing. I just have so much admiration and so many questions.
Well, we're here to answer.
So tell me a little bit about how this all started for you.
Oh man. I started the nonprofit about 5 years ago, and it was all because of a dog named Layla. I was working in a shelter at the time, and shelters are they often the last thing kind of sometimes is social media, right? Even though that's the most important thing that should be when trying to get an animal adopted, especially the seniors or special needs animals. And there was a dog in the shelter for 3 years named Layla, and she was there for no fault of her own. She kept getting returned. And I'm really good at social media. I'm really good at marketing and promotion. And I really wanted to I kind of formed a bond with her. And I wanted to try to use my talent and skill to try to find her a home, because she was a senior, and who knows how much time she had left. And being on the cement, on the hardwood floor over and over was not ideal. And in that environment, that's super stressful, probably taking time off her life, honestly. But anyway, so, we started out locally to no real success. Anything from making videos to posts to passing out flyers to, anything that we could to promote awareness locally. And then I started to reach out more nationally, to bigger platforms. And one day, and it didn't just happen overnight. This is a whole nother year later, so that this happened. BarkBox actually picked up her story. And one morning, a lady in Maryland named Lilia, she was scrolling, she got on her morning scroll on Google, and she opened it up, and she saw the story, and she called the shelter. And she was like, I'd like to inquire about this dog. And another couple months passed while all the logistics were figured out, and they came to adopt Layla. And then they drove 11 hours back home to Maryland. And so then I saw, obviously, or I knew there was a real need for this. And so I started Silver Stray to raise awareness, to help shelters raise awareness and help them with promotion and marketing. And then after that, there were several dogs that were in the shelters for 6 years, 5 years, this and that. So then we helped them to get adopted, and then some time passed, and then it kind of the first, I guess, what is it? The first logo. No, not logo, but
slogan.
This first slogan kind of morphed in or evolved to now what it is today. I was working in a different shelter, and we had a lot of pet families from Gary come in that needed help that we couldn't help because they weren't in our jurisdiction. Gary's not really in anybody's jurisdiction, minus Gary Animal Controls. But and so I saw a lot of these. I was meeting a lot of these families that I couldn't help, and it bothered me. And I know how underserved all of them are. And so I left, and the slogan evolved into what it is today, and why we're here. So everything, though, it all started because of a dog named Layla, and those two people now. They are two of the most important people in my life. They're 80 years old, and they're like parents to me. And so I go to Maryland every couple months to visit them and make sure they're okay, and help them and do what needs to be done. But and so yeah, it's I know I probably didn't do I know I didn't do the story justice, because it's a story that needs and should be shouted from rooftops. But that's kind of the synopsis of it as to why we're here today. So
I love what you shared about all that, and just the story of how you continue to be in that family's life too is really, I think, unique in the type of work that you do. I feel like most of the time, you hear about animals being placed with families, and maybe there's like a wellness check or something, or maybe a quick email follow-up or something. But the fact that you continue to be in these people's lives and them in yours is, I think that's really unique.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like in their will and everything. It's like serious. Like but it's crazy how everything worked out and panned out. And everything happens for a reason. And this obviously had to have happened. And everything that happened up until that point obviously led us to that. So
yeah.
So
cool.
the logo for, because I did the logo work, I do a lot of the graphics and the media production. The logo and the idea of Silver Stray, the inception of it and coming up with the name, as we were trying to just, go through the different things, because there's a lot of meaning, I think, in our words and our names and our intentions. And so it wasn't just something we just wanted to throw out there. It had to have a lot of meaning to this story and to what was happening at the time. And so the Silver Stray, silver obviously kind of having a connotation of the senior animal, and then the stray. So again, at the outset, Kelly, knowing that silver, or that the senior animals were the hardest ones to get adopted, because they're overlooked, because people want a puppy, or they want a younger dog. They're not going in to look for the broken, well, unless they're Kelly, they're not going in to look for the broken older animal. It's that much more work. And so, again, like she was saying, the original idea was her to be kind of like a Mad Men marketing agency for shelters. One person, let me show you how to do this, and even do it for you in times when you can't do that. But the original logo was also inspired by one of our other rescue pets, Inky, who was a poodle that Kelly rescued from a shelter, a blind little poodle
from a Southern Indiana shelter who inadvertently we ended up helping find a dog for some time later, and that dog was in the shelter for 5 or 6 years. So it kind of all came. It was just full circle kind of.
But so Inky is the inspiration behind the logo. So if you get a chance to look at the logo, it's silverstray.org. You can see a lot of our material, our videos, and
the outline is Inky.
But the outline is kind of like a dog in the clouds. Like we see in the clouds, we can see these, we project, these things that we see in our vision. And the idea was that it was kind of the silver lining behind a cloud is also a part of what that logo is meant to be. And then, so it was really wild that when Kelly, fast forward a couple of years, COVID kind of pushed things to the side a little bit, and Kelly's doing different shelter work. And then she comes back around to say, I really need to use this nonprofit for a different cause right now with these people in Gary. And it was like the silver lining becoming the project name. It already had fit what was there for the logo. So it's kind of all that, like Kelly said, things happen for a reason. There's a lot of just symbolism and things that are really rich that I feel like things fall into place like a cosmic set of dominoes.
Thank you for explaining all that, because I wasn't.
Sorry, I always forget something.
No, that's okay.
He's got to be here to help.
And it's such a beautiful story of how that was created, and just the many layers of the meaning of it. So that's really cool and really unique. And unbeknownst to yourself, you were manifesting that for a while.
Well, yeah,
that's exactly
that's
it.
always.
It's like something, just the universe will keep calling things out of us,
Right.
Especially when we're aligned. So we're aligned for these causes, and it continues to unfold the things that we don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, I love your mindset on that. That's a beautiful way to say that, for sure. Tell me about the way that your work gravitated towards Gary specifically. And for our listeners that don't know, Gary, Indiana is a city within Northwest Indiana that is pretty underserved in a lot of regards. But certainly, as this conversation will reveal today, in keeping companion animals with their families. Can you talk to us about just more about how you gravitated that way, and why is it so underserved, and how are you helping just to keep that important bond with companion animals and their families?
Can I take a little bit of this?
Yeah.
So firstly, Kelly's actual schooling and degree is in environmental.
Oh, see, I always forget this part too.
That's right. She's in environmental. So she was working in Gary for a long time, even though she had always has a part-time job at least in a shelter somewhere.
A rescue.
But her actual profession was to be in the field doing environmental ecological restoration. And so she was out in Gary. She was in the community a lot, and she was just running into people and talking to people
on a smaller scale.
Obviously. But then when she goes to the last shelter she was at, and she's working there, obviously she's interacting with people on a daily basis, and they're coming in and needing help from the Gary community that she was already somewhat familiar with. And so I know firsthand, because when she's working her regular day, and then like I'm coming in, or she's just going after work to go to Gary to take some pet food, smaller scale, just this kept happening and happening and happening. It's just like all of these things started to align. And to answer the kind of the more the question about the depravity in Gary, like Gary was a bustling, huge city in the, like, I think through the 50s and through the 60s, maybe somewhere around. The 60s is when it happened, but essentially because it was major steel manufacturing. Well, when a lot of that steel manufacturing went overseas and it stopped production in Gary, there was just a huge vacuum that happened. And I think the city, the steel mills employed somewhere in the hundreds of thousands of people, maybe at least up to 100,000. And now what's left in Gary for the steel mill, it's somewhere around like 2,000 to 4,000 people. So if you can just look at the job like availability alone, it's a huge vacuum. And then what was left is just a shell of what was, culture and so much like beautiful architecture, peoples and families. It's a shell of what was once there. And we believe in the people, and like it's one of the things I say in the video that's on our site. It's like we go to help the people, but then the people end up wanting to help us, help them, and that's how you rebuild. That's how you get things going and you heal. So I think one of the major things that Kelly is really proud about, and that she's doing so well, is that the pets, we know right now, like people love animals, right? And so you got the cat videos. There are billboards if you drive down the highway that's like a cat And it says, okay, now that I have your attention, let me tell you about my business, right? And so in a way, I think Kelly there's an intention to somewhat do that. Okay, here are animals. You love animals, right? Now let's look at the city of Gary, Indiana. Now let's look at the people of Gary, Indiana. Here are animals we know everybody loves across the nation. Now, just like she said, from Maryland, Lilia, hey, this animal you love, boom, now we're connected.
I mean, that's a given, you know, but I really, I look at we look at the families like a holistic unit. Because it's not just the pet, you know, there's other layers, and I'm not trying to do it all, you know, obviously, but, I think you were going to.
Well, what she's really good at, and what she's proven to be good at, is the social impact, the awareness. So the original slogan was awareness equals adoption, right? And right now it's kind of, as much as it's we're about keeping pet families together, it's also awareness equals basically, sorry, our dog's walking around and tripping over stuff. Awareness will
all the clinic stuff from Saturday
will actually help people heal the apathy. So what she's doing is she's creating networks. At this last clinic, we had a friend of mine it's called Beds, Beats, and Browns.
Beats, Beds, and Browns.
Beats, Beds, and Browns. Sorry, I flipped it around. But we gave out 200 seed packets.
Yeah, free.
So he has seeds, and so he helps people understand how to garden.
He emphasizes the importance of urban gardening and how it's good for your health, and he promotes sustainability. But I've partnerships and collaborations are huge. They're everything. They're without it, I have nothing, and Silver Stray has nothing, and I can't provide anything. And so another such an important part of the program is that we provide, it's kind of like a gateway to these underutilized resources that people don't know about, that's for their very community. You know, I mean, I've partnered with everybody, to help to provide assistance for, rent, utilities, homelessness, therapy, recovery, the visually impaired, to free foundation in Chicago to provide free mammograms for men and women, her voting assistance, human food assistance. So
on the website, we have a portal that links to these organizations, and then a lot of times they'll come out. So at not this last clinic, but the clinic before that, the Gary Literacy Coalition was there, and she was handing out free books to the kids. In fact, there were a couple of people who came. They didn't even need the pet stuff. They just came to get the free books.
Yeah, for the books for their kids.
For their kids. And so I think that the reality is just that it's a full on using the ability to get this awareness to plug into people who aren't as good. The shelters who don't have the time to market in social media and get people that attention. It's very much the same with the Gary Literacy Coalition. Not that they don't, but it's just like Kelly can do it at a different scale.
I mean, the footfall we have, we can leverage that. Like we see, again, 200 plus people at a clinic every month. That's a really high quantity of people that I can reach, or that we can reach, to provide these resources. I walk the line. They don't let me do anything else because my brain is always scattered. So they're like, no, you just walk the line and talk to people. I'm like, okay, perfect. Just give me one job. And so I walk the line and talk to all these people, and I provide all these resources. And, here's a link to apply for energy assistance, to maybe help your NIPSCO bill, so that, I'll take care of your pet. Maybe you can get a free phone or free internet or assistance with NIPSCO. And then that alleviates stress in other parts of your life too, right? To maybe figure out how you're going to pay food on the table, or get your kids shoes for school, or whatever, whatever. But so that, that's just a really important part of the program too. Aside from, providing the free spay and neuter and the free microchips and vaccines and TNR, of course, that's the foundation of it. But I'm really, really proud and really and happy that we can provide these other plugins to these resources for these pet families.
Absolutely. And I know that correct me if I'm wrong, Silver Lining Gary is dedicated to providing essential services such as, like you mentioned, spay and neuter, yes, and microchipping, and what did you
Vaccines,
call it?
vaccines and TNR, the trap neuter release for the
Trap,
feral.
neuter, release, TNR.
Yeah.
Okay. But also this whole other abundance of ways that you're trying to help the community and connect them with the services that you need, because the list really does go on and on with all the ways and all the collaborations that you all have created to just try to fill a need, essentially. And I
Right.
think I really applaud you with that, because I feel like a lot of people really get hung up on the idea of well, there's all of these things that are needed. There's all these voids and places where there's just a lot of lack, right? And how can we possibly even scratch the surface of that? And people get discouraged and overwhelmed and then do nothing. But
It's real easy to get overwhelmed and then just do nothing, right? I mean, yeah.
right, but you are
Definitely.
like on the opposite end of that. Like you're absolutely just like starting to see something and then finding a way to include it in ways that you can continue to serve, which that's really cool. The way that you've expanded your outreach from the humble beginnings to what it is now.
Well, and I think again, there's the idea that people don't care because people don't care. So creating a culture of caring, as Kelly calls it, is, it's the anecdote, it's the antithesis of not caring. We're showing full compassion and showing that people do care, and we are going to show up, and then that has other people show up from within the community. This last clinic went probably one of the smoothest that we've had so far, and there's two reasons for that. One, because of the people that believe in Kelly and the vision, and that showed up, and that they want to show support. So our doctor, she drives out here from LaPorte, and her whole team, we're in LaPorte now, but they drive out for every clinic from LaPorte, Indiana, to Gary. It's like an hour drive. If people who don't know, like I'm forgetting that this isn't just locally to where we're at.
Yeah.
So it's about an hour. It's about
So
an
it's
hour
like not
drive.
down the road,
It's
you
not
know?
down the
I
road.
mean,
It's about an hour drive.
people have lives too, but they show up every month. And
then Kelly has a network of just people who she's worked with at shelters over the years, people she's connected with that just believe in her, from either the businesses that are lending support, sending, Wolf Life, Healthy Paws, Pet Supplies Plus, these people locally who send us product and give product to give away to the people.
so we don't have to buy it. I mean, there's such strong support there, so that we can provide hundreds and hundreds of pounds of food, free, that get donated to Silver Stray, to the families. I don't have a pet food pantry, or Silver Stray doesn't have a pet food pantry, but it's always nice to be able to provide a little extra, at the clinics.
Yeah.
And so there's just really strong support through the local pet food or pet, store industry.
Stores, yeah. And then but then all of her volunteers are friends, and who are basically Silver Stray family. There's a private Silver Stray Facebook group that people are sharing stuff all the time, and all of those people show up that are just indispensable to making all of this stuff happen. And then at this last clinic, so it was a combination of all of the people in the network that showed up, and then of course the church where this
Oh my God, the
church
church
where this one was hosted. There were like 7, 8
Oh,
volunteers,
7, 8, 10, whatever.
whatever
Yeah,
it was, and they showed up in
they showed up on a
such a huge
Saturday,
way.
right? They didn't want to be there.
In
They
such
didn't.
a
They had other
huge,
things
huge
to
way.
do, I'm sure. But they all showed up. They manned the traffic. They were helping out. They jumped in when they could. They were so nice and so kind. They were like, "Come to service tomorrow," which was Sunday, and it was great. And they could interact with more of their community, and they want to help out too. Like, let us know when we can help out or come back to the church. And so it's
And
always
they were surprised at the scale, because they do a regular human food pantry, but
which they have 1,000 cars. So really 200 seemed like, nothing, but they weren't expecting people to start lining up at like 30 cars at 10 a.m., because
Right.
it's pretty serious.
Yeah.
So tell me about the clinic. When you're saying the word clinic, like is that the spay and neuter services, or is it food, or is it kind of all of it?
We're on our 7th clinic. We just finished our 7th clinic. It's like a drive-through. It's like a drive-through style. So like you're going to go to, a fast food place, and everybody lines up and stays in their car. until they get to all the guys, all the people vaccinating and microchipping. They might have to get out for just a couple minutes to help restrain. And then sometimes we have free nail trims available because that's a vital grooming, service to provide. And then we have food, so, obviously food sometimes. And then it's pretty much where we just administer the free rabies vaccinations, free distemper parvo vaccinations, and microchips. And some of these pets have never seen a vaccine in their life. And so
They've never seen the inside of a vet office.
Yeah, right. So this
healthcare.
this is really preventing disease. Number one. Number two, it's life-saving, parvo. It's fatal and it's quick, and a lot of people have puppies or education, and we try to provide as much education too in that little time as we can. If you have a puppy, step one, to try to protect it, and okay, this is only the first vaccine. You have to come back for the boosters, and we provide the boosters as well. So it's a lot about education too, because a lot of people just don't know, and if you don't know, you can't make the best decision or be the best advocate for your animal that you can. So
it's like, it's a drive-through with basically stations.
Yeah.
There are the main station for the doctor is the rabies, because she's the only one who's qualified to administer the rabies vaccination. Then there's the microchip and the distemper vaccination. And then the next station would probably be like the food and whatever partners we have. So like if the Gary Literacy Coalition is there, they can have their books up. We had the giving out the seed packets this time.
Like usually a resource table.
Kind of a resource table coupled with the food.
But we try to make it as efficient as possible, like Portillo's drive-through. I always joke, how efficient and just fast they are. But we got to be, we try to cram. We're not cram, but we try to provide as many serve as many people as we can because we're only there for 2 hours, and we always end up staying a couple hours after, which we could be there. We'd still be there. It's Monday morning. But we have a time allotments, and if somebody gets turned away, we say we keep an eye out on the Facebook page or email, text, and then we'll see you next month, because we'll definitely have one next month. So, and then spay neuter, those are different days. We usually try to do mass spay days. If funds allow, doctor availability allows. We just partnered with a foundation in California. Their name is Stand Up for Pits, and they really love the vision. The founder used to live in Chicago for 10 years, so she's familiar with the area, and she's really excited to help an area that she's from. that she's familiar with. So they have agreed to sponsor all surgeries for any like pit or any bully breed type dog, so anybody with a pity, they can get a free surgery, and they could get it through me, obviously for free, or through Silver Stray, but then, it's sponsored. So Silver Stray doesn't pay for it, obviously. Incur the cost. Yeah. So that's a huge partnership that we just.
So those days are obviously, those are really long days, because the spay neuter is a full surgery. I mean, we're talking anesthesia, the dogs go under.
Sometimes we have to transport, if somebody doesn't have a truck, well, we're going to get your dog. Don't worry about it, so.
So at the clinic days, a lot of times we're putting people on the schedule then for, there's basically a growing list of demands, and luckily Kelly's got the Stand Up for Pits organization dialed in for those breeds. But as that list continues to expand for other people who need the spay and neuter service, it's just really dependent on how we can raise funds, which is probably one of the things that the organization has unfortunately run into the most challenge with, is raising actual financial support, in spite of the overwhelming evidence of what we're doing and the impact that it's having. It's been one of the biggest challenges, from grants to really the grants has been the main thing that we've
I will fill them out until my brain is melting out of my ears, but it's just, I think there's such strong competition out there, obviously, and the no's have to turn into yeses at some point. So, you just keep pressing on, but that has been definitely a challenge, but we've learned to do a lot with a little. So, and again, these partnerships, they donate everything. So if we had to buy it, there'd be no,
thankfully with the microchips, the vaccines, I mean, she's to date, probably about $45,000 worth of in-kind services and product have been administered and given out to the community. So she's been able to funnel all of that, thankfully. So
Yeah.
Your relentlessness is just so obvious with everything that you've accomplished thus far and everything that you are working on and working towards. And it's just really cool to hear. I want to back up for just a second because I want our listeners to understand why spay and neuter is so important.
Yeah, so I mean, there's, oh my God, there's so many reasons. There's such an overpopulation. It prevents overpopulation. Gary Animal Control right now, they can't even take in dogs because they're so inundated. My best friend, Mari, she's an animal control officer. So of course we're talking all day long, every day, and we work closely together. And so, it's just so important. And then, we had a recent mass spay day, and a dog came in, and she's not going to make it. I mean, she has a mammary tumor, that's like a volcano,
it's the size of a fist.
She's just not, I mean, the results haven't come back in yet, but
it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good at all. And so, spaying her would have prevented that. And, it wasn't the owner's fault. He got her as a rescue, whatever. I'm not putting blame on the owner, but it's just, people can't afford it. I can't even afford it for this dog's, so, it's, or they just don't know, that it can, prevent, or can lessen, aggression, or
lessen
or
the chance of
marking
those diseases
or diseases, this and that. So, and it can just create a healthier animal and less money maybe on down the road, right? Because maybe to spay neuter your animal would lessen the cost of other major issues, down the line. So,
and then of course the TNR for the feral cat community.
Oh, I think every feral cat in the United States of America, it lives in Gary. I mean, there's just so many. And so of course, I mean, there's, the community cats, but, I get calls every day with people, with colony caretakers who are feeding 20, 30 cats, and they need help. Right. And they need to be vaccinated. They need to be fixed. They need to be, it's just, they just need help. And so,
yeah.
And it's
so everything from like overpopulation to their imminent health issues that could be prevented.
Absolutely.
And then certainly animals like that are the ones that end up being abandoned or deserted. And it's, or the ones that possibly end up having those multi-year stays in the kennels or the rescues, and that's tragic. Like no dog should live like that.
It's a preventative. The whole point of the TNR and the spay and neuter and just her vision in general is it's prevention. It's keeping the pet families together is keeping those pets out of the shelter, keeping those pets off the street, keeping those pets healthy and at home, where they are also an asset to the family unit. Mental health exactly is where I was going with that. Is they're a very big part of mental health in a family unit. So.
I've talked to a lot of people who will tell me that they have fed their dog, even if it was macaroni and cheese, before they fed themselves, when I'm handing them food. And so it's building a healthier community, and the culture of caring. We care. So now, not that you don't care, but there's even more of a reason to care, and you have somebody to support you. You have support now, and it really debunks, it's interesting. Like, I don't know, is there a myth out there that people in urban areas don't care about their animals, right? Or care less, maybe.
Yeah, that was when I talked to the mayor, and the sitting mayor now about the program, and we were on the phone. I was telling him all the stuff that we're talking about now, and he said, and he had seen some of the pictures and the images of people showing up from the community, and that was one of the things he said to me directly, was that he loved it for the sheer fact that it debunks that myth and says, no, that's not true, and this is proof right here in all the people showing up, those long lines, they say that,
that will sit in line for hours, hours, and not get all of the full services. Even, we can only do so much. And so, in the time allotted, but they just still show up, and they're so kind. You could easily, excuse me, you could easily be, really hot under the collar really quick, right? Because it's sometimes hot. And
I'm going to raise my hand and take credit for that, because I talk to every one of those people, and I tell them as I get to the end of the line, when I know that the services, because we have a pretty good system of understanding when we're going to run out of time and when we're going to run out of services now, like actual vaccines or whatever. And so by the time I get to the people towards the end of the line, and I try to do it as early as possible, so they're not just waiting.
I'll take over one second. We haven't always been as efficient, right? In the beginning, you're kind of ironing out the kinks and figuring out what works and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. Well, I hate to say that we had people sitting in line for 3 hours who didn't get anything. Right. And so we had to really, really iron out that kink and make sure that it was efficient as we could. And I didn't want that, but it just in the beginning, while you're trying to figure everything out, there's going to be some mistakes made. And so, but now we really have a really solid system, and people, are not sitting and not receiving anything.
And to that point, I wanted it even more so, because I'm the one that has to go tell the people that they're not going to get served, because Kelly's up at the front end where there's a lot of hustle and bustle, and it's a lot of hard work. But those are the people who are like, yay, I'm almost out of here and I'm getting served. I'm at the back of the line and I get to talk to every person. And what, the thing is, I've learned this along the way. The thing is that keys anyone in when I can see them getting their frustration, maybe getting a little bit high, is I say, listen, at the bottom of this flyer that has our website, silverstray.org, has the email address. I said, that phone number right there, that's my girlfriend Kelly's direct phone number. This is her organization. This is it. You know what I mean? She's the backstop for everything that's happening here. There's always whatever frustration slips out. And I say, you can contact her directly. We will figure out a way to make sure that you get the services that you need. That's what we're here for. We're going to make sure it happens. I give them my name. I say, just let them know that, let Kelly know that you talked to me, whatever it is. And there's
I will try to go to people's houses if I can, that's kind of reserved, because it's not efficient to drive around Cary all day long trying to go to houses, but it's kind of, I like to meet, people. And if, it's nice time with some of my volunteers, but if it's kind of reserved for people who don't have transportation, but if there's a dire need, somebody was waiting and they got turned away, go help him. If they got turned away, I will make a point, of course, to go to their house and provide the service. So just put them down. And so, but yeah, so we try to
just, make sure and bend over backwards.
Yeah, right.
It sounds like you all are really making sure that nobody's falling through the cracks.
Right.
Nobody is losing the opportunity to get the help that they need. There's still a way to receive that, even if, the resources are, gone by the time they get up to the front of that line. So, I mean, that's really unique in regards to what you're doing, because oftentimes it is just kind of well, too bad, so sad kind of mentality. We're out and see you next month. So I can tell that there is a unique level of compassion that you all are bringing to your nonprofit and just the way that you're serving. And it's different. It feels different than others that I've encountered.
That's awesome.
That's good. I'm glad, because it is different. And it is, it took me a long time to realize, that what a person's purpose should be. And it is, because I was always kind of self-centered and always like my nice stuff, which I like my nice stuff still, but it's not, at the end of the day, it's not what's important. It's not what is important. And I just feel like a person's purpose should be to help and serve others. Like if at the end of the day, it's not, then what's the point, so, like I said, it took me a while to figure that out, and to know or to feel what fulfills me the most. And that's what it is. And I feel the most spiritually fulfilled when I'm helping others. And it certainly comes from a genuine place. So
everything that you just described right there is exactly why your organization is different from everybody else's, because it's a level of heart that you bring to it. It's that level of just compassion and the purpose that you just talked about, like really knowing that that is what you're supposed to be doing, and it's what lights you up. It's not just something that you're, you know, showing up to every day and only halfway caring about. This is your life.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's a legacy. And I think, you know, because I'm an artist, and for me, as an artist, I've always, from the time I was probably 10 years old, I knew I was going to be an artist. And I remember when I was in my adolescence, I was always thinking about my legacy, like what I leave behind, the work that I do. And a lot of times I tell people that don't consider themselves artists, I say, you got to understand that we're creative beings. Just because you don't paint or draw doesn't mean you're not creative. Every day you're being a creative because you're choosing. So your life is your canvas, and your actions in this life are your paint, and those are your brush strokes. And so this is the work that you're creating to leave behind. I mean, when we look at artists like you know, Vincent van Gogh, who didn't sell a single painting in his lifetime, but now his most valuable painting is worth $85 million. That's his legacy, right? And so I think what Kelly is, you know, deeply tuned into is that this is her legacy. This is a mark that she can leave. You know, it's the families and the children of those families. And, you know, one of the goals, of course, is trying to help Gary establish roots where people can say, I have something to stay here for, instead of trying to move out of this city. And so that's, again, legacy.
They can thrive like on a foundation of compassion, you know, and I don't know the stats, but I know more people are moving out every year than are staying, you know, or than moving in. And so maybe, you know, this gives it's like a template, you know, it's like we've created a template for change, and maybe this empowers them to stay, you know, and build roots on the foundation of compassion and not leave. So yeah.
I love that so much. You guys are creating like actual legit change every day. Just, you know, it's not just like scratching the surface either. You're digging deep like all the time. It's not just like, you know,
surface,
small little things. It's big things, and you're including so many different aspects of the community, and it's just really cool to see. I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about the mental health and how holistic wellness is part of that, in regards to why it's so important to have companion animals with their families. And you know, the notion that every being in this world needs love and affection, and sometimes your companion animal is the only source of that, right? And you to them as well, because animals need that as well. I'd love to hear you talk more about just the mental health aspect and the wellness aspect of animals and their families.
We had a guy this clinic who wants his dog spayed or neutered. You know which guy I'm talking about? You were just talking to, I think, Meg on the phone about him. He basically said, this is my guy. So he needs to be neutered. This is my guy. He's like his ride or die. He's like, this is no matter what, through thick and thin, an animal, we come home and our animals don't judge us. You know, they're there.
They start the day it's like new every time. They don't hold, you know, I think we impose our emotions on them. You know, they don't process the same as we do. So they're happy no matter what every time they see us. It's like a brand new, you could walk out the door and walk back in. It's like they didn't, you know, they haven't seen you in 3 years.
Yeah.
So they're a wellspring of love. So like to go back to that, to your animal like that, can be so important. And then the opposite of that being that, like Kelly was saying earlier, if I can't feed my animal, the amount of kind of guilt and shame that can compile, because I mean, Kelly, I tell you, we deal with things as much as anybody, and we have our own struggles, and we've got.
I need the resources myself that I pass out to these families.
It's so
like,
true, because we have special needs animals, and they, you know, they go to see the best doctors, and they eat the best food and all of that type of stuff. And so when you can't provide that way,
and on top of you're dealing with everything else, you know, all the other hardships in your life, that doesn't make for a good time in your mentally or emotionally. And so, you know, I've had people, or even that their animal is the last, like their husband maybe have passed away. Right. And then their animal is their last connection.
Well, that was you. I mean, for Kelly, you know, I don't know, is it okay if I'd say a little bit?
You can say whatever.
Kelly lost pretty much all of her family when she was 20, mid 20s. Lost her father, lost her mother, lost her grandparents. And really, again, this is exactly her story. Her poodle, Sylvester, was the last link that she had as a connection to her immediate family, you know?
So a lot of times, I do, you know, these, these widows that are like, it was the last connection. And so I'm like, okay, let's do everything. Let's make sure this dog, we can elongate, or, you know, the life prolong, or, you know, and take the best care, you know, and so, of them, and I will help you do that. And so, it's like it's everything. It's like therapy almost too, to some of these people, or not some of these people, everybody, you know, who has an animal, unless you're like a sociopath, but, you know, so.
And I'll say personally, this is a little bit more personal to me, anecdotally, I guess, but our dog Francis, we had to say goodbye to Francis in early 2022, January 24th to be exact. And I've always wanted to write a book throughout my whole life. And I said, I'm going to do it when I get older. And then I'm like, oh, wait a second, I'm kind of getting older. You can see the gray in my beard here. And so, you know, it's about 3 or 4 days after, you know, some grieving where I couldn't get out of bed because Francis had been in my life for 14 years and Kelly's for the last 7 or 8, right? And, you know, I started writing therapeutically, not with any intention, but just to kind of get some of these emotions out and to say some of the things, because to me, Francis, she was larger than life. She was a rock star. Like she was a part of, again, this is kind of a Silver Stray thing. Kelly always wants to use the animals to do the best healing possible. And so going back to families and the notion of healing, we would, on holidays, St. Patrick's Day, Christmas, Easter, we would take Francis into the nursing home because she was trained as a therapy dog. So she was trained
like unofficially,
but she
freelancing.
She could go, and so we would go in and take her into the
you know, and she's soft and bouncy and floofy, and the people, you know, the residents, she'd be licking their face, and she would end up jogging old memories, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and
this is in people who maybe, you know, are on the verges of dementia or in full dementia, that all of a sudden this draws something out from the spirit. And so, you know, we would take her and do those type of things. So for me, she was such a huge part of my life through all my different adventures and artistic achievements and failures and all those things. And so I started writing, and at the end of it, at like the end of the 3rd or 4th day, I was like, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write my book and in honor of Francis. And I know I could attach it to this. As long as I write at least a page a day, when I come full circle through a full year, I won't come to the anniversary of having to say goodbye empty-handed. I'll come with my book. And so I did that in 2022, 365 days. I wrote at least a page a day. And now I have a book, and it's called Serendipity According to Francis, and probably some of our adventures with Silver Stray and the trick, because it's kind of like a journal and an adventure into my past, and Kelly and Isaac's like what we're doing in our daily living and all that stuff. So animals, obviously they're not as important for everyone.
But if you don't have an animal, or if you don't have an animal or a pet, your neighbor probably does, or your family member, or even if you don't, then you could certainly benefit from the resources. So,
Right.
Even if you don't like animals and you don't like them and you hate them and they're not for you and whatever, you still can benefit from all the resources that are provided.
Yeah.
So,
And that's again, to that point, like people driving by will ask, because they'll see the line.
They'll stop
and they'll stop. Hey, what is this? And it's like, well, it's for animals, a pet clinic. Oh, okay. And I'm like, no, hold on a second though. I said, if you know anybody, like Kelly's saying, that has an animal, make sure and put them up on this. But it doesn't just stop there. If you go on the website, I'm like, I'll hand them a flyer. So if you go on the website, there are resources, there are links to other things that you might need in the city. We're just, we're here to try and affect some change, like you said earlier. So
yeah, absolutely. I love that you wrote a book on the journey for the last year. Is it published?
Well, it is not published, but I'm going to put Kelly on the spot right now too, because Kelly is supposed to be writing a book that she started.
I'm busy.
That she started, and it started with Layla and that adventure that she was telling you about, Layla, and how it should be shouted from the rooftops. And it's a beautiful story. But she's got her title, which is The 5 Dogs You Meet in Heaven, because Mitch Albom
is one of my favorite authors. The dog that I had in my arms is Maury, Tuesdays with Maury.
Oh, yeah.
And so The 5 Dogs You Meet in Heaven will be a way for her to kind of go through, like, in some.
And he wrote The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, so it was kind of like,
a
nice spinoff, of that title.
But some days I write 10, 20 pages, and there's months that go by that I don't write anything. So maybe one day, or maybe I'll die and then somebody can finish it. I don't know, whatever. But
but that's really cool, because laying out the details of your day and what's in your heart about the work that you're doing for other people to enjoy that and gain perspective from is a really unique view into your purposes and the work that you're doing and the way that you're serving. And I mean, I would for sure purchase that book, and I would imagine there'd be like thousands of others that would too. And like, that is, for one, really cool, and also like fueling your nonprofit.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, I was, when I thought about it, I was just like, I thought about everybody's probably familiar with Marley and Me.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that's like a movie you can only watch once.
Right?
I can't do it.
No way.
No, but I'm like, I guess I was somewhat envious that Marley had the spotlight, and I felt like Frances should have it. So like that was enough motivating.
Because we were like, everybody needs to know just
for sure. But what's really cool about that though too, and also The 5 Dogs You Meet in Heaven, is they're real stories. It's your truth that you're speaking. It's not just So, and that has so much more pull for a lot of people. People want to hear your stories. They want to hear your real everyday, what the heartaches are, what the highs are, the lows, what are the wins, what are the losses, and that you carry on despite it all.
It's funny that you say that, because this morning, you get your memories kind of pop up in your different things, whether it's Facebook. My OneDrive showed my memories from today, and it was Kelly and I went to Zion National Park, and apparently I'd uploaded the photos from that day, and we did the Angel's Landing climb, which is absolutely incredible perspective and vista. And I remember driving through the mountains through Utah and Zion, and this phrase came to my head that said, these mountains far from obstacles lift us up. And I just shared that photo today with that quote. And the notion is that it's all about perspective, like you just said. As we climb, our legs burn and the air thins through the challenges. But if we shift perspective, we see that these mountains are ladders. They elevate our perspective. And then once we're up there, it's a whole different view, so going through the struggle of it, the climb can seem grueling, but at the end of the day, like you said, it's really about the stories that we get to share and then connect with people, and hopefully something resonates, and we all go on this journey together, you know?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's exactly what it's all about day to day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're on the mountain, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a mountain. It's an uphill mountain.
We're climbing it.
High elevation.
Try not to look back, you know, try not to look down, you know, and that's the other thing too. We try, you can't look sideways either. You just got to keep going to looking at the pinnacle and trying to reach it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And sometimes it's okay to look back because it reminds you of how far you have come.
Yeah, right.
So that's important to remember too.
Sure.
When you feel like you're failing or you're not gaining ground or the progress that you want, look at what you've done so far. Look at how you've served and the impact you've made.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really important.
Yep.
Tell us about where our listeners can find you and how they can best stay connected with Silver Stray Social and Silver Lining Gary.
There's obviously the website, silverstray.org. My phone number, I think half of Northwest Indiana has it at this point. So that's cool. You could just probably ask anybody.
I told her that she should not be putting her personal phone number.
He did.
The flyers.
I did not listen. And
at some point he
should have used reverse psychology, because then I probably would listen better if you tell me to do it, and then whatever. But so no, it's fine. Whatever. But
there's a direct contact on Silver Stray.
Email, phone, that you can send a message to the website, even Facebook, whatever.
So Facebook is just Silver Stray Social. Instagram, she's got a little bit of a presence on Instagram. It's kind of, again, she's run into the challenge that the shelters and rescues have, where it's like, well, who's going to manage all this stuff when I'm working on
I'm kind of picky, so
things.
Like it has to be done a certain way.
Right.
You're like the boots on the ground person, so it's hard for you to also be the person behind the socials, like doing all that. I mean, you can only do so much, so I'm sure you're very dependent on your volunteers.
They're so competent, and they're so they know what to do. I don't really have to, it's easy. And so they have really started to take control of different things. So I don't have to, and I can focus on trying to find money.
Yeah. So what do you think what is the part of all this that is inspiring your heart and your soul to continue this work? What is it that just fills your cup every day to keep coming back to do this work?
The serving to helping the people. I mentioned earlier that's what fulfills me the most, is to the stories and the people I meet, and the hugs and the tears even, and the sweet messages that the people don't have to spend a couple of extra minutes on, but they send it. And so even the frustrated people I have empathy for, and I try to help as much as I can. And they at the end of the day, they are thankful, and they it's the day before the clinic, I had a big no from a grant that I was expecting a yes from. And I was crying, and, I probably cry once a day, cause it's just like, I got to get the energy out, whatever. But so, and I was super upset, and I was like, I'm just going to eat like shit and just whatever. I don't care, and drink wine. And I was just like, I didn't care. And, I was just so upset, and everything didn't matter and whatever. Yeah. But then like the clinic came, and then the clinic went, and then the end of the day, and then I'm like, okay, there's everything is full again. Yeah. And then we can continue on. And so,
so basically it's the people, which again, it's funny because it's animals. We talk about animals, but it's the people. I mean, we love the animals, of course.
I didn't think about that.
That's easy, but it's really the people. I mean, and again, I think the legacy, knowing that the impact is going to be there, and that we can be a small part of, helping spotlight and change, the community, and being, involved, and showing that, because we're in LaPorte as well. So it's like it's an hour drive every time that we have to go out that direction, which Kelly goes out, often,
multiple times a week.
Yeah. It's not just
once
a clinic, of course. So, it's a way for us to show that, I think it's the example, it's the people, and then it's the people that create what Kelly's saying, the template, it's being able to show that there aren't borders, counties and states and countries even. It's just about compassion that goes beyond all of that, and it goes through all of that. And once we can, really just tap into the people mattering, that's for me, that's why I do it. And I'm inspired by Kelly's relentlessness.
Also, he will say that I will yell at him if he doesn't do everything I say. So
well,
don't forget that.
Yeah, she's definitely it's definitely a soap opera most days here at the house. But
good times. It is good times.
Yeah, so it's not puppy dogs and rainbows, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, yeah, well, to that point, Kelly doesn't necessarily always do things the right way with me personally. To say that transparently, I don't show up because of the way she's acting about the situation. I show up for the people that I know are on the other end. And I know that she's just having a lapse in communication with me at that moment because of, like she said, we have to have compassion for people. She's just in a moment. She's in a phase and she's challenged and she's got a lot on her plate and a lot of stress. So,
and he's the closest one to me. So of course, sometimes the closest people to you,
so it's like the fallout comes onto me.
Yeah.
But like I look past that again to the people that are being served and to the channel that I know that she's creating for others. So it's like, it's not just the people served, it's the people she's allowing to help serve other people. So all of the volunteers create, like, they're so excited because they can put their energy into the same thing. And Kelly said, here's that template. Here's that pathway for you to direct your energy. Now we just need to get that into the financial sector to say, hey, your money's just energy too. And it needs to go to a good place. So let's funnel it here so we can make sure it goes to the right thing and helping heal and create this culture of caring that she's, really doing a great job to do. So.
Yeah, very cool. And thank you for that transparency. And it is not, puppies and rainbows all the time, this type of work or any type of work. And people, I think, just don't realize how much goes into it and the emotion and the level of just angst that we feel inside day in and day out and how it can affect our own relationships and our own connections. And I just, applaud you both for the work that you're doing and just the level of care and compassion and empathy that you're bringing to not just the animals, but the people, and especially the underserved people, a group of, people in a specific community that are often very overlooked and misunderstood. And it's just, and, just the work that you're doing to combat the economic and racial inequalities in, this community is phenomenal.
Well, I think Gary's it's such a beautiful story of what can happen, because I sense and see the change coming, obviously, because we're there doing that all the time. But it's also an illustration of, like you just said, poverty. Right now, the percentages, it's 87% of the population of Gary is Black and brown people. But almost 100% of the population is poverty. And if you go into the community, that, like, a lot of that poverty is what will be the common denominator that gets it gets past even the racial thing. It's just like the poverty is so bad, but the potential on the other side of it, being so close to Gary, having the lakefront. I just saw a video with Dame Dash the other day. He's you might not know Dame Dash, but he's instrumental in hip hop culture and the movement. Discovered Jay-Z, discovered Kanye West. And I saw him on a video the other day saying, I'm telling people right now, because if you don't pay attention to me, you laughed when I told you about Jay-Z, you laughed when I told you about Kanye, you laughed when I did this, this, and this. He goes, but I'm telling you, Gary, Indiana is what's coming next. And if you don't get up on it now, shame on you. But I'm telling you right now, Gary, Indiana is going to move. And I don't know. It's when I saw that video
out of nowhere.
I mean, I follow Dame Dash and I know him, so it was like really cool. But it's just like, wow, that's just incredible. Like we're in here doing this in the community to hear that from somebody else, knowing that this is the birthplace of Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 started right here. I mean, that's the kind of story, because again, as an artist, as a musician, there's this notion of, people say support local and support local artists. And it's funny to think that, you could say support local organizations or support local artists, Michael Jackson, but Michael Jackson changed the world. I mean, he was known all over the world, and he came from this little city right here in our backyard, in a city that
we drive past his house all the time, every day, like when we're there. And so
it's just there's so much story, like you said, there's so many mountains to climb, but the story and the journey is really where.
And not to say that, surrounding towns and counties don't need the help, because I know they do. And they're just as underserved too. But
that is one thing. That's one thing I'll say 100%. Because I get, how do I respond to this person? Because there's people from Hammond, there's people from
LaPorte, even wherever,
there's from Portage, and they're like, well, I wish we had something like this for us. And it's like, well, we do too. That's why we've got to create some stability and some strength here. It's a testimony to the need and to the fact that it's getting out there, which is great.
And hopefully it can blaze the trail for other, like this is a template, and it should be blazing the trail for other shelters, or for other, I'm not a shelter, but for shelters or other organizations to do this, because these are the 3, including the 4 like resource area of how to heal the community and how to make everything, how to keep, population down, how to prevent disease, how to create care, culture of caring, how to create a healthier and happier community. It just solves everything.
So if it can inspire other chapters, that would be fantastic. But again, we have to find a place to focus first, because if you don't, it will be,
you can't be bouncing around like a ping pong. That doesn't solve anything.
The impact won't be as deliverable. It's the whole notion of, when the plane is coming down, you have to put oxygen on for yourself first, or else you can't help anyone else. And, Gary is just that community that we have to help first. And then maybe, it can expand. Again, with unlimited resources, we could administer that. Like, we could find volunteers or start hiring people to create other chapters, to do other things. But right now it's just like, you can only do so much with the time and the resources. So we want to focus like a laser beam, kind of like, with the sun, and you take a magnifying glass and you channel the energy of the sun into a single spot, and you can set a leaf on fire, right?
Yeah.
So if we get that fire started, maybe we can go start another fire somewhere else. But if we move the magnifying lens away, then that fire isn't going to start. We need to channel the energy first in a single spot, start the fire, then maybe we can move on.
I feel like,
well, do you feel like you want to volunteer?
well, there's that. And
no,
you know what? There's been multiple times during this conversation that I've just gotten like the chills and just felt really just inspired by everything that you're sharing with me. And I don't know. I mean, you talk about like, we're only here and this is, we only can focus here, but I don't know. I remove that word only, because I feel like this is such a big thing. It may feel small because it's in one city, but what you all are doing in this one city is affecting, just is making ripple effects in so many other areas. And, it's that idea that one small thing can affect the whole world.
The butterfly effect. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't know, sometimes the choice of words that we use minimizes the big impact that we're making.
Yeah, sure.
So just always remember that, like, you guys are making huge progress, and it is obvious in so many ways. So I hope you always just feel seen and appreciated in that regard, because it is not a small thing you're doing. It is not a just or an only type of effort at all.
That's awesome.
Thank you. It means a lot. Definitely.
Tell me what you want to leave our listeners with today. What thought do you want to have people walk away with?
Man, aside from the whole hour of everything,
I know. And this hour went so fast. Like,
For,
I can't even believe where this time went.
for me to try and synthesize it, when Kelly talks about the culture of caring and what you just said about not saying the only, um, I would say that our compassion and our caring can leave a legacy. And so if you
because
don't,
it's like so easy to be like mean or like rude or like get hot, like attitude. And like, I find myself like that, I'm so hyper. So I get 0 to 1,000 and, no time at all. And
Hey, let's change that word hyper to passionate.
there you
yeah,
go. I like it. So no, you're right.
you're right.
If you
You're right.
keep-
You're right.
And well, I love that because Kelly, one of the volunteers, Lacey, Kelly consistently calls her crazy. She's crazy. What she means is she's
Yeah, you're right.
super passionate.
Yeah.
She's very passionate about XYZ. Like a lot of our volunteers are very passionate about anything that they're doing. And so no, it's very important to change the words, like you said, to shift from only. But I would say the culture of caring is such a huge part of this endeavor, and it's what resonates for sure with me. And again, you don't have to be an animal person. You don't have to be know where Gary, Indiana is, to know that a culture of caring is something that we need to and that's where it goes outside of your only. If we're creating a culture of caring, then and we're being a template of that in some sort, then that goes beyond all kinds of walls. And so I think that for me would be what I would say.
To extend the kindness too, because it's like I said, it's just so easy to not always
Stay human, be kind.
not always be kind, and to extend that to other people that that it may resonate with them, and then they continue to pay it forward, and
We live in, so far, I would say we live in a culture, like when we look at social media and you look at news cycles, we live in a age where things rise to attention much quicker if you're pushing, punching, or stabbing someone. And it's unfortunate. But if we could get into a good news cycle, that would be awesome, where things like this can rise up in people, that it's not so much the fight or flight response that's triggered. But when we say culture of caring, and knowing that we have that political religion divides in this country specifically, that's on us. Like we had a gentleman at this last clinic that it was very challenging.
oh,
I don't want to get into the details of it, but it was a very challenging situation, and it really challenged that notion of caring, right? Because most everybody there wanted to see kind of like the hammer fall, a
and
judgment.
he could have easily got arrested that day. So like it had escalated to that point. But I had even later that day, after all said and done, and I'm just laying in bed and recapping in my mind everything, I text Jay, because I'm upstairs, he's downstairs, so I'm texting him. But I was like, I'm like, like that was just it was just, a lot of people are.
She took him to the side and said, look, this could go really south for you right now. Yeah. We have to have a serious talk. So there's a point where our compassion doesn't mean we're complacent. Our compassion is challenge. We can challenge people with our compassion still. And that's what Kelly did in that moment, said, wait a second here.
And normally where I wouldn't have empathy for somebody, I really tried to exercise that and have it, not just with him personally, but in my mind, and as I'm processing and as I'm speaking, texting Jay, I was like, God, it just at some point, I just really am trying to empathize for and with him, and trying to see the positive. If there is, maybe he is really just a piece of crap. I don't know, but like, I really try to see like a positive if there,
Well, and so that's why what I said to her, I said, it's like, we're all broken, we're all broken in some capacity. And the best of us are probably trying to heal that brokenness and then help heal it in others. Some of us haven't reached that level of vibration yet to where we can do that. But when you look at it in the animal
at the end of the day, he was there,
He showed up for a reason.
He showed up and stayed for his animals, even if he's not a good dog dad or not a good human, but he was still there, and he still, did.
And what I was saying when we were talking then back and forth was that, like, we know in the dog community, there's kind of the notion that there's really there's no such thing as a bad dog. It's a bad owner, trainer, guardian, however you want to call it. And so in reality, if we look at people in the same capacity, there are really no bad people in my mind. They may be bad parents or bad, circumstances, that kind of trained the mind into a different capacity. But it's never the whole notion of an old dog can't learn new tricks. I don't believe in that. So, we kind of, again, double down on the compassion, double down on the empathy, and trying to find a way where we can say, yeah, I'm broken. I did this. I was short like this. I was angry like this. Or just, just have some pause to create space, I guess. And again, in the culture that we live in, where we're rewarded for making enemies fast. It's a very binary system where it's like, this person's good, this person's bad. That's my group. This is my tribe. It's very primal. It's something I would hope that we've transcended by now. And I think that, again, that's why I get so excited about the work that we're doing, because it's another way for me personally, having that worldview, to be able to interject my energy into what, Kelly's established here. Because, like, I can show, this is the boots on the ground where the rubber hits the road of how you can do that. So
very cool. Yeah. And I can tell that, the different personalities that you are completely complement the mission. So, you don't want to have somebody working alongside you with such an important cause that is the same as you in certain ways, because you have to be able to balance each other out. Right. Those passionate energies. And the gentleman you're talking about, this could really, I could go on for hours about this type of, mindset and conversation, but it's that idea that everybody is healing from some type of trauma, and they're manifesting it in ways that maybe we don't understand or maybe feel aggressive. But at the end of the day, that man probably just needed some love and compassion. Right. And maybe he didn't even know how to receive it well enough to absorb it. And, just like you said earlier, with the passion that builds up in you, sometimes is directed at Jay in a way that's not super.
There's a lot of passion.
not super compassionate, maybe.
We see with animals too. Yeah. Abused animals, you know what I mean? They react to what you're coming to pet them. Like Maury, this guy here, he sometimes will do that. A lot of times he'll do that because he was abused, and he was found on the streets. But, like, sometimes we'll come to pet him, and anybody who comes to pet him with love and intention, he'll bark at.
Well, and he's part Chihuahua, so he's they're little.
It's an ingraining, though. It's an ingraining that he's having to unlearn, and he has to remind himself every day to remember where he is and that he's safe. And humans are the same.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for this conversation. I could really talk to you both all day. For our listeners, all the ways to stay connected with Silver Stray Social and Silver Lining Gary will be in the show notes, and please follow them, show up for their events, volunteer if you can, and just be part of the change, be part of the solution. Thank you guys for joining me.
This was a really good start to the day, to start to Monday. I'm really glad that that we talked, and that you welcomed us on the on the podcast. It's a good it was a really, I have to talk a lot and I don't like to, and that's why I bring Jay, because obviously he likes to talk a lot and he's really good at it. But I felt really comfortable with you, and it really I just felt like it was probably one of the best opportunities, I guess, to really explain things and to talk to somebody who I don't know, you seem warm and welcoming and kind and on the same, like, aligned and everything too. So, and so that it was one of the best times so far to talk and to interact, I guess, about the program.
Cool. Thank you for those words. I do try to create a safe space for all my guests, and I am absolutely of the mindset that you both are with people and animals. So yeah, it was a really great conversation, and I felt the warmth from you two as well.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Like you just heard here, it's not all puppies and rainbows. But truth be told, the work actually worth doing never is. To Kelly and Jay, thank you. It's people like you who show the rest of us what we should be doing, stepping into the reality of the situations that break our hearts, and then actually doing something to make them better. If you are listening to this episode as it came out, you can get involved with the next clinic on October 29th. Click the link in the show notes to visit silverstray.org for all the details. Be sure to support, share, donate if you're able, and follow Silver Stray on social media. Remember to hit that subscribe button here to never miss an episode. And go to the website, lilulosvegan.com, for all ways to stay connected, as well as sign up for the email list. Doing so will keep you informed on all things podcast, Lilulos, blog posts, recipes, and a lot more to come. Until next time.